small indie film actually ended up being a big hit and now has a sequel.
Our entertainment reporter Jim Ferguson sat down with two of the stars of the follow-up film. Good morning, Jim.
Well, good morning. Our Hollywood Happening today looks at an inspiring drama, God's Not Dead 2, where Grace Wesley, played by Melissa Joan Hart, a high school teacher, takes a stand for God in a public school. Grace fights for her rights with the help of her union-appointed attorney, Tom Elder, played by Jesse Metcalfe. Melissa and Jesse, welcome to the entire state of Arizona.
Thank you.
As I was telling you just off camera just now, that I really appreciated God's Not Dead 2 because I had the experience of teaching in a Christian high school and also a public high school where it was two different worlds. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that has to do a lot about your character, Grace, who's a high school teacher, and Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.
Dr. Martin
High School.
Yeah.
And would you both agree with me that the setting for this, much like the original, which was a college professor, this one is set in a high school, that that is the perfect setting to set up for this film, this controversy?
Yeah, well, what I loved also, the first film stood on its own, and this one really does stand on its own as well. It's a whole different set of, well, characters mainly, but also, you know, the whole setting is different. So we're in the high school, and my character is a history teacher who is asked a question by a student about Jesus as far as nonviolent protest, and she gives an honest answer about Jesus from Scripture and is then thrown in court and basically, you know, whether or not she did the right thing as a history teacher to answer a student's question about Jesus. And I do love the historical aspect of it, the fact that we pull out facts about Jesus as a man. So as a history teacher, are you allowed to bring up Jesus? And I really enjoyed that aspect of this film, and I think that's a big takeaway.
Jesse, I enjoyed the aspect of the film, too, of the courtroom drama.
Yeah.
Which is extremely important regarding the message of this movie.
Right. I mean, you know, for me, it was very educational, you know, to have all of these experts and theologians up on the stand, you know, basically helping us prove our case that Jesus, in fact, did exist historically. It was very interesting to me, you know, but also being a part of this project and being a part of the larger conversation was very interesting to me as well. You know, the role of religion in our modern society, you know, how much of a role it should have.
And a history teacher, I learned about the witness that you called that talked about the actually Jesus existing.
The cold case, there was the cold case Christianity. Wallace came on, and Rice Brooks, and I mean, there were so many real testimonies of scientists, apologetics professors, and just these gentlemen that came in and give real testimony in the movie, their own testimony about why, and some of them were atheists when they started their research and became believers. Some of them are not believers, but can prove that Jesus did exist as a man. There's a lot in the film to take away.
Well, Robin Gibbons stars as the principal at Grace Wesley School. She's caught between a rock and a hard place in this separation of church and state case. You know, I kind of felt, would you agree with me, her character was between a rock and a hard place?
That's exactly it. In fact, I'm going to quote you later. You're absolutely right, because I know, you know, when you're starting films, you think of the history of that character. And I believe, the director and I talked, that she too believed in God and was filled with faith. But here you are trying to do a job and trying to follow the rules. And I think of her as wanting to be efficient and good at her job and do everything she can, which means, unfortunately, kind of...
And realistically, you played it like many principals I worked for that, you know, be careful, you know, just want this to go away.
Yes, she did want it to go away.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that she liked Grace and she appreciated Grace, but she was like, cut it out.
Yeah.
You're going to get us both into trouble. Stop
because
it.
there is such a thing as separation of church and state.
That's right.
Which she was supporting.
That's right. She was supporting that, absolutely. And I think she was supporting that and trying to follow the rules, you know, that was very, very important to her. So I agree with you, she's between a rock and a hard place.
Now, when you first heard about this role, it's true, your family loved the first one,
That's
the original?
Right. Yes, that's
they
right.
They were happy for you?
Oh my gosh, they were thrilled. My mother loved the first one, made us all watch it, and then we loved it. So when I called and told her, she couldn't believe it. Nothing would have been more thrilling for her.
the courtroom drama was great, and I thought it was ironic that here you're the principal of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. High School in Arkansas, and yet you're going through this controversy about is God dead?
Isn't it? I think that is interesting, and there is a certain irony to it. And what I had thought about was even how the question gets raised, where the issue of God, and you also are talking about Martin Luther King and Gandhi, and these are two people, everybody just wants peace and tolerance and love, and the school's named after Martin Luther King, and here my character is, hey, watch it. So,
Well, many of the themes for God's Not Dead 2 come from the 2014 surprise hit God's Not Dead. Of course, these cases involving church and state are interesting and very important because they involve freedom of speech and religion. Well, I enjoyed the courtroom drama and the performance of Jesse Metcalfe. Finally, the studio releasing God's Not Dead 2 is PureFlix, based in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's rated PG, my grade a C+. I'm going to see you right here next Tuesday on The Morning Blend.